I don't think they ever expected me to fight back, to put this I'm as American as apple pie image, and I have done nothing wrong. Everything I have done as a lawyer to counter their propaganda with my own life, my own story, my own image.
Lynne Stewart is, simply speaking, a legend in the realm of law for her defense of people engaged in struggles against the powerful. It's time for people to join hands, join forces, and join movements to change this sad state of affairs. Lynne Stewart's work in support of human rights for all and a zealous defense for all is a damn good starting point.
No more blood for oil! No more blood for empire! Don't turn your back!
I'm charged with conspiring and actually materially aiding a terrorist organization.
What we have here is a situation where it became very obvious as to what the court wanted. They wanted Lynne to beg.
The media likes violence and conflict. There were no commies out there anymore. We now had Muslims.
Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman was associated with the Muslim Brotherhood and the Salafist movement in Egypt, which was in opposition to Hosni Mubarak. Of course, Hosni Mubarak, the dictator who had been subsidized by the Pentagon and the CIA for nearly 30 years, was imprisoning and kidnapping and torturing and assassinating all opponents, whether they were Islamic or secular, whether they were students or whether they were trade unionists, whether they were intellectuals or professors. Everybody was at risk in Mubarak's Egypt. And the issue in question here was when Lynne released a press statement by the Sheikh, which was every bit her right to do and her obligation as a defense attorney. And the statement had to do with questions put to him about what should the movement in Egypt do. This is in Egypt now, with regard to a ceasefire that opponents of Mubarak had agreed to with the government on the condition that the government stopped killing people, detaining them, and torturing them. The government agreed to the ceasefire and proceeded to do all of the above, torturing people, kidnapping them, and killing them. And the movement asked of the Sheikh, what do you recommend that we do with respect to this ceasefire? And he said, that's a decision you have to make on the spot for yourselves. If the government isn't honoring it, the ceasefire has little benefit and little meaning from my point of view, but you make that decision for yourselves. Now this statement, a press statement, which was handed out to the world's press from the Sheikh by Lynne, which was every bit her right to do as a defense attorney, was the basis for the government claiming that she had associated herself with terrorism. Guess what? Hosni Mubarak is on trial for his life. Lynne is vindicated by the movement of occupation in the United States. Lynne is vindicated and the courts are shown to be what they are, an instrument of oppression and of the rulers.
You know, underlying it all is the fear of terrorism, which will tear this country apart if we don't have the guts to stand up and be grown people and face reality. But behind it all is both the fear of terrorism and the exploitation of the fear of terrorism. It justifies a military budget that's murderous to the poor all over the world. We spend more on arms than we do anything else, and we spend more on arms than the rest of the world combined. So we stop that, our country would be a menace to peace on earth and perhaps to life on earth.
If you look at who the judges are, just take a quick look at every one of these judges on the Second Circuit. They are all partners in law firms that represent Citibank, J.P. Morgan Chase, and Goldman Sachs, amongst the contractors such as Boeing and Lockheed for the military. One of the judges in question is the cousin of the George Bush Sr. The other judge in question, one day in Connecticut, driving his SUV, ran over a traffic cop and killed him. This judge was not arraigned. He wasn't stopped by the police. They didn't ask to test his alcohol level in his blood. No, he wasn't charged with manslaughter. what would happen if a black youngster ran over a traffic cop and killed him? What would happen if you or I did this? Would we not even be questioned, arraigned, or charged, or in any? This judge sits on this court and makes demands about decades in prison for Lynne Stewart. That's the quality of justice that these courts represent. They are not representative of anything but the rulers who fund them and the rulers who put them in place. The courts themselves are a charade and an expression of that 1% that the 99% of us are in the process of struggling against to remove from power. Lynne is a symbol of that struggle, a voice of that struggle, an expression of that struggle, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
It is only in this maddening age, in the shadows of 9/11, that a prosecution like this could even be contemplated and won. And that is a testimony more to fear than to reason. Let's be honest. She was convicted of essentially breaking a prison rule. You know, if a prisoner violates a prison rule, he or she may get 30 or 60 days in a hole, or perhaps a reprimand. In the United States of America, Lynne Stewart faces 30 years. That should make you wonder, not about Lynne Stewart, but about the country you're living in, about the nature of the thing we all call the law. Lynne Stewart is facing a life sentence for breaking a prison rule.
I look for our struggle to continue with the Supreme Court, and I look to see them continue to hold Lynne in jail while she struggles to vindicate herself. So all they did was delayed the time that we would have Lynne out here in our service, speaking the words of truth that she has spoken throughout her career. So that the important thing that happened today is that Lynne's friends, the friends of the Constitution, the friends of justice, those who are working for justice, came out today to eyeball the court. The court was eyeballed. They know we're here. They know we're not going away. And this is what Lynne Stewart has faith in. So I would thank everybody who listened, everybody who's here, that you have vindicated Lynne's belief in the people. The people are here. The people will be there. The people will win with Lynne. Thanks.
The United States government, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, provided the explosives, arranged for the Ryder rental van. The contract for the safe house was in the name of a Mossad operative named Ghuzi Hadas. There isn't a scintilla of evidence to associate the Sheikh with these events. On the contrary, what Lynne Stewart and Ramsey Clark established in court was that these were acts of the United States government itself. Imad Ali Salem, at the time of the blowing up of the World Trade Center in 1993, was quoted in the New York Times as stating, "I was assured by my superiors that the explosives that we provided would not detonate." There's no ambiguity about this. What's at stake here is that Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman was set up in a fake war on terror. It is indeed the people of the United States and the world who are being terrorized by a criminal state that is the author of these events, creating a climate of fear to allow them to suppress the population at home and to wage wars of predation abroad. Those are the basic underlying dynamics of this case, and Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman was innocent and has been sentenced to life plus 100 years, held in a maximum security prison without entitlement to make telephone calls, without entitled to communicate, a blind man with diabetes and aged. This is the criminal nature of the state. The Sheikh is an innocent man. The court, like the Attorney General, wanted to silence the Sheikh and silence his attorneys and to suppress his innocence and to vindicate the criminal state, which has created this war of terror in the first place for its own interests, while the people of the United States are held hostage to it. Those are the underlying issues. That's what Lynne Stewart is being persecuted for, because she is the voice of expose of the criminal nature of the state. She is the voice of all of us who are subjugated by this state. She is the voice of all of us who are at risk with this rapid assembly of the police state and the military dictatorship in the United States. Those are the issues that define this case and which require us to mobilize as never before in defense of Lynne Stewart and defense of ourselves.
Good women like Lynne Stewart, who's, to me, Mother Courage.
I can take whatever they can dish out.
That's right.
Yes, Lynn. I am part of a left movement. Power to the people. That's right. I am not going to back off. Right.
A famous defense lawyer who Lynne likes to cite once said that these cases are not won in the courtroom, they are won in the streets. And I think that's true. To answer your question about what this court or the Supreme Court will do depends upon what we do. If we mobilize, if there's a vast demand for justice in this case, if the political price they pay and have to pay of continuing to persecute Lynne Stewart is too high, she will be freed. And if that political price is not high enough, she will not.
We're going to prison, folks. Oh, no. I want to remind you all that today was the day that Joe Hill was executed. And you know what he said at the time of his execution? Don't warn me.
Organize! 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 Free Lynne Stewart! Free Lynne Stewart! Free Lynne Stewart!
Wherever somebody's fighting for a place to stand, for a decent job or a helping hand, wherever somebody's struggling to be free, look in their eyes, ma, you'll see me.